So I suppose this is probably the most anticipated of the collection of Sleep Token songs I've done so far, which is understandable, really, because Provider is about bonking, shagging, rutting, copulation, making the beast with two backs. What else is there? Boinking? It's about shagging. And if YouTube hasn't already cut off anyone watching this video from here on, there are two very different ways of looking at this song. So when I was planning doing this video, I decided I'm going to kind of do this in two sections. One, I'm going to explain why it's sexy. And the other one is applying it to the lore, explain that maybe it has undertones of something else. Because it is about shagging, mainly. But there also is a lot that goes into answering this question. So in my opinion, there are three main reasons. The first is the lyrical content and the connotations therein. The second is the vocal performance and what that is doing. And the third is the expression of the music, not necessarily the notes that are played, but how they are played. So of all of the sensual choices of lyrics, I'm going to make a note of them just as we go along. Yeah, all we have to do is listen to this first verse to get all of this. And again, just to prefix this, all of this is just my opinion. That's the beauty of Sleep Token. A man at home in his pants, you know, guitar, piano, his mate, drumsticks, not KFC. They wrote this. Some of us interpret it in a certain way. This is my interpretation. Right, let's do it. Provider.
I wanna be a provider. Gonna you is silk like a spider. Roll or die, you bet I'm a rider. You're out of shell. You're a secret inside out. I wanna be a provider. Your guiding hand, your final decider. That bit of fuel to your fire. Stoke your desire. Just let me know that you're mine. I wanna be a provider. I wanna be a provider.
So before we even start with the lyrical stuff, we need to talk about the vocal performance. And of course, because Vessel is British and sings in a British accent, internationally, there are people who already find his voice a little bit fascinating. He also tends to do, you know, these very low gutturals that we know from the more metal songs, and is associated with this big kind of mixed and falsetto voice as well. So it's not surprising that in this song, we get a lot of, considering the subject matter, a lot of lyrical falsetto moves, and a lot of kind of indication that he has a very cultured voice as well, as he's able to move through his chest voice into his mixed voice and falsetto quite easily. Like, Vessel's break is nearly non-existent, but we are hit immediately with no intro and just, I want to be your provider. I still think it sounds like your provider, not a provider, as it has listed on the lyrics all over the place. It does sound like he's singing, I want to be your provider, but regardless of that, I want to be your provider. It's the way he turns the ER of provider into an AH sound. That sound obviously immediately has sexual connotations, and he's also adding a little bit of breath just behind the note as it falls off as well. But unfortunately, at this point in the proceedings, not only do I have to go back over the lyrics, but this is where I have to mention the lore. And of course I could be completely wrong, but there is nothing really left to convince me otherwise. This is not Vessel singing to a new partner that is potentially, you know, one of the themes of Even in Arcadia. Nothing makes me convinced that this is Vessel singing to sleep. But where this exists in the album, and indeed even where it would exist in the album if you were to start it with Even in Arcadia and play the side 2 first alternate playlist of the album, in all of these situations, this feels like this is sleep convincing Vessel to come back to them. Or rather, using sexual and emotional manipulation in order to coax a Vessel that they feel is going away from them, a Vessel that is growing stronger or that doesn't need them anymore. This feels like sleep trying to pull Vessel back, or using the one thing that they've been able to use before. In order to explain this, we kind of need to go back to the beginning.
I wanna be a provider. Gonna you is silk like a spider.
Okay, within 2 lines of this, there is a load of subtext, if you like, within these lyrics. I want to be your provider. I want to be your giver. There are obviously sexual connotations with that as well, particularly when you replace provider with the word giver. But I want to be your provider. I want to take the control away. I want to be the one that controls everything. You don't need to worry about anything. I'll take control. And this line stuck with me from the very first time I heard it. Garner you with silk like a spider. Go and collect silk for you. Go and bring you treasures. Or, like a spider does, wrap you up in silk, fuck you, and eat you while you're still alive. For anyone, this imagery of a spider is not meaningless. Garner you with silk like a spider. I don't want to turn all Charlie and Always Sunny with the big, conspiracy board, but I think spiders are more symbolic in Sleep Token than maybe I'd given credit for. I now want to go back and listen to a load of other stuff and trying to find more of this, but the idea of sexual cannibalism, I don't know if YouTube's going to... Sorry, YouTube gods, I'm not allowed to say that. But redback spiders, black widow spiders, the female will wrap the male up in silk and then eat them either during or after copulation. Basically, after they finish fucking them, they eat them. That's in the second line of provider. This doesn't strike me as an offering. And in fact, if it was an offering, the offering that Vessel has given before is offering of taking a bite out of me, empty my blood, eat me. Oh. And let's be honest, based on the previous lyrical content of a lot of the songs, it doesn't sound like Vessel, or indeed the man behind the mask, is not entirely disinterested in oral things. I'm so going to get banned. So with that perspective now, potentially this being, again, just my interpretation, Sleep singing this to Vessel in order to pull him back. Let's just take a look at where we are in the album. In Look to Windward, Vessel came back. He was in Arcadia. He said that everything looked the same, and then he wanted something to halt this eclipse in me. But then in Emergence, in the second track, he came out from underneath who he was, or he was asking somebody else to come out. There was stirring in Emergence. Past Self seems on its surface pretty explanatory, but is he talking to a new character and asking them to, dance on the line with him? Is this the person who's going to show him how to dance forever? Which, of course, is the final lyric in Dangerous, which is track 4. Now, Dangerous almost feels like Vessel is resisting a stirring underneath him, like he doesn't, something's stirring under me, and you might be dangerous for me because I haven't felt like this since, he or she who shall not be named. Well, Sleep. And then we get to Caramel, and Caramel kind of ends Act 1. In my opinion, Act 1 of Even in Arcadia runs from Look to Windward to Dangerous. That's our first act of the album, as has been with all of the 12-track albums before. It's moved in 3 acts. Caramel's a bit of a funny one because it dissects it, and it doesn't seem to be, if you like, in keeping with the story of the album as it is run from Look to Windward to Infinite Baths. And then in Even in Arcadia, we move into a really strong second act. Vessel has arrived once and for all in Arcadia, but there seems to be a sense of balance between them with have you been waiting long for me? And there are even allusions to, actually, I'm done with you, I'm the one in charge now. Vessel is the antagonist. If you like, of the album up to this point, we then arrive at Provider, which doesn't seem to sit in that 2-act structure. Now, there may not ultimately even be a 3-act structure in this album as it exists as only 10 tracks so far. So far, you never know, right? But to go from Even in Arcadia to Provider, that would mean that Vessel had gone from Have You Been Waiting Long for Me as potentially the antagonist in the lore to then going, I want to be a provider, and using, as we'll go through in a minute, often stuff that doesn't sound like Vessel at all, either in lyrical content or some of the vocal delivery later in the song. So then, I think that it is the voice of Sleep talking to Vessel. But I will say, as a contrasting argument, if you like, to this, but if this is indeed Vessel throwing himself at Sleep, then it would make some sense why there was the sword of Damocles hanging over him. As Damocles was given, he was given king for a day. If Sleep does raise Vessel up for a day, if she does take him in, if she makes him godlike, that would make perfect sense for him to have a sword of Damocles hanging over him. For him to know already, I know now, how fractious this relationship is with Sleep. And at any point, she could trim the thread, and that sword of Damocles cleaves him in two.
Roll or die, you bet I'm a rider. You're out of shell, you're a secret inside that. I wanna be a provider.
There are a couple of instances in this of finality as well. And while, yes, we think we're all agreed that a lot of this lyrical content is designed to be building up to a sort of musical orgasm, if you like, as far as Vessel's concerned, much more than just a musical one. But that final decider also leads into a slightly poisonous element of the song. Again, I have the control. Although I'm your provider, I'm the provider. That grants me certain privileges. Certain people in certain households will understand this. I said on TikTok, I think this song is also written for the elder sibling, and particularly the middle sibling, who had to raise children on their own when they were still kids themselves. The changing family structure means that the word provider has different connotations. Some people in life are desperate for a provider. Some people in life can't think of anything worse than to be provided for, to be in somebody else's debt. But there does seem to be connotations and undertones of debt here as well. And that is another theme that's come up in the past. I am giving you more than the debt that I owe. It's that imbalance and trying to bring it back that Sleep Token talk about a lot.
That bit of fuel your fire, stoke your desire.
The symbolism's so good. Right, that as well. Just let me know that you're mine. Possession. Not just let me know that you're in love with me. Just let me know that you want to be with me, that we can be in a relationship, that we can have balance, that we can exist together. No, let me know that you're mine. Has a very different connotation when you take the lyrics into just a monologue standpoint, when you just address them. Let me know you're mine. Oof. Makes it feel a bit different, doesn't it?
Wanna be a provider.
Listen, it's sexy as fuck. This little hi-hat hits the two's doing are so effective. Delineate. There's that falsetto. I don't know about you, but in the lore of the assumed lore that at least I prescribe to so far, we've had lots of hit and misses between the man behind the mask and whomever he was in love with, or whoever these songs were written about. Again, man, guitar, piano, mask. It seems that relationship was fractious. Whoever he wrote these songs about, it was imbalanced. It was stop-start. It did happen. It didn't happen. It was, you never saw me naked, but you fucked me. The idea that there was physicality between them, that there was sex, or else how would Sleep be able to use that as a weapon against Vessel now? Or indeed, vice versa, potentially. So the line, I felt myself hesitate, but I know I would not now. And this is the kicker for me here. My lover. That's not how Vessel talks. Vessel seduces us with syntax and archaic language and Shakespearean sentence structure. Balance of technological literature against the sounds of nature. He doesn't pop a bit of cleavage and go, my lover. It's not him. It's not him. It's not him. It's not the character. It's not Vessel that we know that worships Sleep. Just that one, my lover, that feels smarmy. It doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel how Vessel would worship Sleep. So good. So good. Caught up on you. Do I want to go there? Yes, I do. That in itself doesn't sound like Vessel. Now, Vessel has been fairly grandiose at points in past albums by, saying that he was, I'm the one who'll fight for you. I'm worthy. I'll be the one who. Maybe at times he thought that he was more important to Sleep than he was. He would never be so bold as to say, "Do I want to go there? Yes, I do." I'm not sure I buy that entirely. That reeks of the arrogance of Sleep, the arrogance of the other person, not cocksureness of Vessel. I love the BoJack Horseman reference. I still think, because there's so many pop culture references all over this, with the ICU scene from BoJack's mother's funeral in season 5. Go and watch that episode. In fact, just go and watch all of BoJack Horseman. But these lyrics are cute. They're cute, they're funny, they're showing a little bit of a side, as the man behind the mask, as a songwriter, that he's able to use kind of different things to make people go, oh fuck, okay, I wasn't expecting that. For some people, don't like the structure of these lyrics, they don't like the flow, they don't whatever, they just don't like the lyrics. I think it's cute. And I also think it's an indication as well that this isn't really the voice of Vessel at this point. Oh, and for what it's worth, I think the lyrics are bad baddie spitting ice in the room. The only reason I think that is because based on a lot of the lyrics from the EPs, I get the inclination that Sleep, as it was to him, the man behind the mask, was a performer of some kind, was again potentially a singer, whatever. But I get that. I've got that vibe a lot, that there was an artistic kind of link between the two of them. And of course, then he hits us with the only good girl this side of the moon. Now, what's quite interesting is I've gone back and looked at some of the, not some of, the only interviews that Sleep Token have done. And Vessel, in character, refers to Sleep as him. He refers to him as male. I'm not sure I've given enough thought or credence to that yet, but that's quite an interesting and quite profound thing. Anyway, that's a video for another time. The last line of this verse is one of my favourite lines on the album as well. You're the only game that I like to lose. Firstly, we've already had lyrical mentions of games in the past and people not giving up games. But you're the only game that I like to lose, insinuating that if Vessel likes to lose, then he likes to finish last. And if he finishes last, then you come first. For anybody who doesn't think that Sleep Token make, but what people call them, baby making metal, they do to a point. As a songwriter, he knows exactly what he's doing. This is phenomenal. He's whipped people up into a frenzy in this album, writing Caramel for problematic fans, for writing songs like Dangerous and Provider to obviously appeal to that big cross-section of people who adore him. And because he's anonymous, he exists on a pseudo-fantasy level. What we have to remember, though, is that this is a young man who is writing songs about personal experiences, giving them to us to interpret in any way. Now, is he writing songs about fucking? He absolutely is. But if you are to get invested in the lore like myself now, God, you've got to remember, I'm going to tell you a story in a second about Spiders. I didn't know who this band were 12 weeks ago, and now I've got people telling them to never call me again. Have a fixation, everybody. I have to stop it there because the post-chorus, or the bit that comes after, is incredibly significant and very poignant. Your fingers foxtrot on my skin. So suddenly the song opens out musically for the first time. So we were listening to this song the other night, and both me and Lolly K agreed that your fingers foxtrot on my skin doesn't seem very sexy. Now, believe it or not, I used to be a West End dance captain. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. I used to look like that. Mental, isn't it? So when we were talking about this song being sensual, Lol raised the point that why isn't it tango? The tango, Argentine tango is very sensual, face to face, moving together. It's up there. But the foxtrot isn't a sensual stance. In fact, a lot of the times you're actually looking away from your partner. We're trying to work out the significance of the foxtrot. So it's long, long, quick, quick, long, long, quick, quick. That's basically the movement of it. And why would that be significant on somebody's skin? And then Lolly brought this up. Did you know that the majority of spiders don't have the same length legs? In fact, the majority of spiders have 2 long legs and 2 short ones. Now, I went a bit mental with this. Not only did I research all of the spiders where the female, or indeed the male, will wrap each other up in silk so that some of them will willingly be eaten while getting fucked. I have a mate who works at London Zoological Society, so I gave him a ring and I asked him if they could put me through to the arachnid department. And he gave me a number. And I called that number and I spoke to a lovely man called Clive. I don't think Clive was ready for a slightly overexcited Geordie to essentially start shouting down the phone at him. Clive, hi, is it possible that spiders walk like a foxtrot? Do they move like a foxtrot? And after about 8 minutes of explaining to him what a foxtrot was, he said, yeah, I suppose they do. And then he said, but could you please never call this number again? Which, I'm going to be honest, I think under the circumstances was entirely justified. But listen, I got an idea in my head. Hyper-focus, people. So yeah, turns out that spiders do actually walk slow, slow, quick, quick in their leg construction. 4 legs pointing forward, 4 legs pointing back. 2 long ones, 2 small ones. They walk in a foxtrot, which would mean then that your fingers foxtrotting over my skin are like a spider crawling over me. And although a lot of spiders aren't venomous, it would give us slightly more context to I'm going under this time. But wait, there's more! But the way Vessel sings the line, your fingers foxtrot on my skin, I'm. Not skin, I'm going under this time. Because even just then, within his choice of how he delivers the line, it changes the context slightly. Going under this time. Not I'm going under, not Atlantic, not being dragged under, not drowning. Going under this time.
Our bodies converse like old friends, exchanging the yes and silence with something unsaid on both ends. Surely we know the difference.
There are some beautifully musical, emotional moments in this post-chorus, and our bodies converse like old friends. That is just the most beautiful imagery. This idea that the connection between us doesn't need to be spoken about. That just in the act of intimacy, the physicality between us, that's how we converse. We can exchange the years in silence. We can plug in to the other person and learn about them just through physical contact. But that in and of itself is incredibly sad, that they should exchange the years in silence. Just take off your clothes, let's do it. The feeling of the lack of intimacy with something unsaid on both ends. We are both at fault here. The way we got to this point wasn't just me and it wasn't just you. This was something that we never communicated. There never was that emotional connection. Maybe there was never the emotional maturity at that age or whatever it was. Again, man behind the mask writing this about a love lost with something unsaid on both ends. We both lied to each other, or we both didn't tell each other how we really felt. If you want to go back to songs like Do You Wish That You Loved Me, maybe you said what I wanted to hear in order to get what you wanted. And now here are both of those characters. And again, we've spoken about it maybe being Sleep and Vessel speaking at the same time. Maybe there's more to this than just Vessel's voice in terms of this being worship, in terms of this whole sleep token phenomenon being worship to a deity. Surely we know the difference. The words missing from that are by now. Surely by now we know the difference. Why are we doing this to each other? And I love that the post-chorus reaches that conclusion because it does it musically as well. If you listen back to it, we get the line 2 and 3 run together, and then all of a sudden the air is sucked out of it and there's a long pause before surely we know the difference. There isn't that movement that we've had in and our bodies converse like old friends, and it moves through and it sounds quite like nice and poppy, and then we get big synth fades and then they disappear just before surely we know the difference.
With something unsaid on both ends.
It's that tiny bit.
Surely we know the difference.
And then a decision has to be made. And ultimately, what it comes back to is sex. The work that Two's doing on the kit. Sex. This is fucking. You go back and listen to it. If you've ever watched one of those interviews with Two, the drummer, and he talks about the drums are how I articulate myself. They are I express my vocabulary by how I play the drums. In this moment, in this what I would call the almost like the dance break, we get nothing after surely we know the difference, and then we get just the left foot of Two just tapping on that hi-hat, and then we don't get a lead-in note, we just get a clash on that first note. And immediately it makes me think of two people who know that they shouldn't be in this situation, who maybe there is huge affection for, but they know that they shouldn't be doing this right now, like some kind of Hollywood masterpiece where two people have ended up together, and it's that moment where they come together, where they kiss for the first time, where they embrace each other, where everything else, the world could be on fire, the world could be on flames, everything could be collapsing around them. But in that moment, all they care about is the physicality of kissing, of holding each other. It's Plato's Symposium, the act of the origin of love. The idea that when we are having sex, that we are putting ourselves back together, that the gods were scared about us, that we were men on men and women on women and women on men, and that we lived as two. We lived together, and then they didn't like it, so they cut us in half and they cast us all around the world. And then the idea is that the origin of love is coming back together, is finding your other half, and sex is the putting back together of those two bits to make a whole again. This moment where the song drops back in for that instrumental middle eight dance break, whatever you want to call it, it's the clashing of bodies together, that coming together of two people in that passionate moment. And because of the way that Two is articulating the movements, he's moving positions on the drum kit. It's changing positions. It sounds like two people have just gone, surely we know the difference. Surely by now we know the difference, but we don't, because ultimately we always give in to one another. What fucking songwriting, man.
Surely we know the difference.
So good. That synth line. Cyclical. Like a spider. Wrapping silk. That organ that makes us think of church is back. Hey, do you know what else has an outer shell? Let's call it an exoskeleton. That's a really wet click. 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 Click, YouTube. Click. Oh, it just fades into that. Oh, it's so good.
Your fingers from the side.
See, for this to be Vessel singing to sleep again just doesn't stick with me again because of that I can give you what you want. Vessel has been giving sleep what they wanted since the beginning of this relationship, because the deity couldn't exist without the vessel. It needed the vessel to fill it up. It was necessary. The vessel was necessary, is necessary. The only being that can really offer another being something in this is sleep to Vessel. Maybe it feels like sleep has more to offer Vessel, or did up until this album. I can raise you up. I can take you higher. You can, I'll get you to a godlike level. Stick with me in the nighttime. Oh no, I promise. One day I'll tell everyone about us. Does it not give that vibe? And just to accentuate that, I told you I can get it so right, even in the daylight. Up until this point, from the beginning of the trilogy of Trauma, the first track of Sundowning, the night does not belong to God. To the very end of Take Me Back to Eden, so give me the night, the night, the night. The night comes down like heaven. The night has offered relief because maybe in the night that's where the relationship has existed before. He says it in Gethsemane, you never saw me naked, you came in, you used me, I was your robot companion, you were my favorite color. Vessel, the man behind the mask, whatever way you want to look at it in terms of these lyrics, was kept in the dark. They weren't the one that was brought to the parties. They weren't the one that was posted about in relationship statuses on Facebook, or whatever analogy we can use, But even in the daylight, I can give you what you want. I'll talk about us. If you come back to me now, I'll tell people about us. I'll tell everyone. We'll be that couple. Everyone will know about us. This stinks of sleep. This stinks of the manipulation from somebody who had the control and feels like they're losing it. And so they're using sex as power. They're using emotional manipulation. No, this time it'll be different. This time we'll be together. We'll be on a level. It's an incredible song on so many different levels. There are certain songs in this album that obviously are more lore heavy than others. And some like Caramel, I do believe that there is lore in it, but that was much more the man behind the mask addressing something. Maybe it wasn't so thickly veiled as other things, but again, we are just lifting veils that we presume. Everything I just said, poor fucking Clive. I wasted 8 minutes of his day to ask him, do spiders do the foxtrot? I need a Patreon. Anyway, I'm sure I've missed a million things. There's so much in this. It is an incredibly sexy song. Don't yuck anybody's yum. If people want to fuck to this, let them make Sleep Token babies. God, at least they'll be fucking intelligent. There is a bunch more Sleep Token analysis coming, because the more that I've listened to Even in Arcadia, the more I've wanted to go back to the very beginning and explore everything. Please, in the comments, if you want me to go back to the beginning, let me know. But yeah, phenomenal song. Go make babies. Go make babies to Provider or Dangerous. Dangerous is fucking sexy too. I'll do Dangerous next, because there's a bunch of shit in that as well. I need to calm down. Anyway, yes, if you'd like to leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Free range humans, go and do what you want. I'm not your mum. But Vessel apparently thinks he's your daddy. So I'm going to be honest, I don't think many people would be against that.